Thank you for the introduction. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I would like to share with you some reflections on the topic of port security. First of all, let's have a close look at the dark side of the cyberspace. As Mr. Nansen from Fortinet already mentioned, there were in fact a lot of many data breach on the maritime sector. And according to the study of ENISA, there were 18 major incidents in the last year. And the point is, many of these incidents are caused by state-sponsored hackers with very high skill and large resources. So we on the defender side are often in a disadvantaged position. So it is obvious to think about security. There are different approaching to cybersecurity. As Captain Saito already mentions, common security framework is the framework of NIST. And in this presentation, I would like to share you some idea about the red highlighted topics in the 5 pillars. In the first pillars, you have to identify your assets in your company and the risk of these assets. In the second pillar, you have to implement measures to protect these assets and to detect the risk, the threats on these assets. And but not least, there is no 100% security. So you have to implement planning and procedure to respond on the incident and to recover your business processes. So first, let's have a close look at the asset. The port ecosystem is very complicated because you have many stakeholders in the port ecosystem. The different stakeholders consist of the big shipping companies and the terminal operators to small tug operators. And these stakeholders perform different activities such as navigation, loading and unloading, and other industrial activities. The point is these different activities need a very complicated port ecosystem, such as protocol for navigation and OT and IT system, for example, supervisor system, SCADA, or other port community system. And this complicated ecosystem poses a highly critical risk on your asset. First of all, on the one hand, the different company, the different stakeholders have different understanding and awareness about security. For example, you cannot compare the awareness and resources for security of a small tech company in compare to a bigger company or other authorities such as the MPA. And on the other hand, because of the digitalization of business, such as other regulation, for example, the national single point window, there are very many interfaces between the system of different stakeholders. And more worse, because of the IT and OT convergence, you have also interfaces between the IT system with well-known security measures with all the OT system which you barely secure because many OT systems are not stay up to date with the latest fix. The point is, it is very difficult to patch OT system and legacy system. And more worse, because of the digital transformation of ports, for example, in context of smart port, do you have more and more insecure components, such as the IoT sensor. These IoT components are designed for operation, not for security. So this is a more risk on the ecosystem of the port. So what is to do to protect your assets? First of all, as already mentioned, because of the different kind of awareness, you have to raise awareness for the whole staff, from the ordinary employee up to the board of directors. Because the weakest link in the security chain is the human. And the most common first step to attack is phishing. So you have to train your staff to reach minus level of awareness. For example, with different kind of phishing tests or training. And the next point is the hacker acts globally. So you have to access appropriate information from different sources all around the world to get, for example, cyber threat information in order to react and handle cybersecurity incidents on the early stage. And one possible to get some information is to implement information sharing in different levels. For example, within some community of port to port. And at this place, I would like to thank Jingpeng for sharing us with many valuable information about the cyber threat. And as the increasing digitalization of business processes, the classical firewall cannot protect effectively your internal company because of many interfaces to all the stakeholders. So an answer to this problem could be the so-called zero trust concept. That means you could not trust any user. You could not trust node application, node data. You should perform explicit verification for all this component of your IT and OT system. And for such explicit verification, you should use all available information as possible you could get. For example, you could use multi-factor authentication in combination with all the information such as profile information, such as location and user behavior. And after such verification, these components should only get the need-to-know access right at the just in time. Because you cannot trust all the components, the assumption of compromise is even important. For example, you should assume that your mobile device could be lost in any time, and appropriate measure is, for example, to encrypt the hard disk of your device. So let's look to the third pillar of the cyber framework. To detect the threat in early stage, one possibility is to implement the so-called Security Operations Center, as already mentioned by my previous preferences. But the implementation and operation of a SOC is very cost-intensive and time-assuming. So possibility, an alternative of an internal SOC is to use external SOC services from third parties. But you have, of course, to check whether alternative is suited for your IT landscape. And last but not least, as already mentioned, you have to think about the worst case. What is to do when a data breach occurs in your company? According to an IBM study, the average time to reach the normal state of business after a data breach is 84 days. So what is to do during this time? How is to communicate with your stakeholder? How can you run the emergency business during the time with no IT system? And in which order, in which priority, you should recover the components of your IT system? To answer all these questions, you have to implement the so-called business continuity plans. And the business continuity plans is no need if you don't have regular exercises, because this is a complicated plan, and without exercises, you could not execute without any failure this plan. So this is a quick overview about the different aspects of the cybersecurity. And as already mentioned, this topic is very disruptive. So you have to consider the whole framework, not only as a project, but it is a process. So you have to have the appropriate investigation in the whole topic of cybersecurity in the port. Thank you for your attention.